Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Connell and I'm with AIM Insurance. Today we're going to be going over all of our insurance that we offer here at AIM. So we insure parent-teacher groups just like yourselves, PTAs, PTOs, and booster clubs. We'll be going over all the insurance policies that we offer in depth so you can understand exactly what we cover here at AIM. So the first question is, why does your PTA even need insurance in the first place? We get this question all the time. The first thing is to protect the assets of the PTA and the personal assets of you guys. So anyone can sue for any reason. So that's why you always want to make sure you're protecting the PTA and what you guys have. PTAs are not immune from liability. So a lot of people think, oh, because I'm an educational group, we do great things for the community, that no one's going to sue us. Well, unfortunately, that's not true. Just because you're a PTA does not mean that you're immune from the liability. Another reason that we get why people think they don't need insurance is that typically the school insurance will cover them. Unfortunately, we find that 10 out of 10 times that's not the case. The school insurance normally does not cover the PTA. A practice that we tell people to go and do is to get a piece of paper, write down all of the events that you guys do, and be very detailed. So if you're having a carnival, list that you're going to have bounce houses and petting zoos and anything you're gonna have at that carnival, give it over to the school, have them hand it to their insurance and see if they will cover everything that you guys listed. Again, 10 out of 10 times we find that everything is not covered that they list on that piece of paper. And then the last reason, insurance will pay attorney fees to defend you. I'm sorry. Attorneys can cost easily $200, $300 per hour. So it's absolutely worth it to have insurance because we will pay for attorney fees to defend you guys. So we're going to get started. These are all of our coverages that we list or that we currently offer. So you'll see four main coverages: the general liability, fidelity bond, officer's liability, and the inland marine coverage. And then you'll also see some endorsements underneath some of those coverages. So we're going to go over all of these today. Just to kind of educate you on, the endorsements are part of the policy. So you'll see under general liability, there are 3 different endorsements and they are options that you can purchase with the general liability coverage. Same with the inland marine, there is an endorsement that you can purchase with that. So again, we're gonna go over all of these coverages today and then we'll have questions. So the first coverage is general liability insurance. What does that protect you guys from? Lawsuits resulting from bodily injury or property damage. So this is if you guys are having a carnival, having an event, having a fundraiser, and someone was to get injured during that fundraiser and they decided to sue the PTA specifically for the injuries. Who needs protection under general liability? You always want to make sure with any insurance policy you have, whether that's with AIM or not, that the name insured is going to be covered and that your members, volunteers, and employees are covered. With AIM Insurance, all of that is covered, but if you do not have insurance with AIM, you want to make sure that you have a policy that does cover all these things. So if you purchase insurance with us, then all that stuff is covered. The policy limits, people often ask what policy limit should they purchase. We say you should always look for one that's $1 million. We do with AIM offer a $1 million policy as well as a $2 million limit as well. So again, to reiterate, general liability covers you guys for lawsuits resulting for bodily injury and or property damage. So what kind of activities could cause you liability? What could someone sue you guys for? Roller skating parties, dances, carnivals, graduation parties. A lot of these things on here are very common for PTAs to have. Bounce houses we do cover. I know a lot of PTAs do bounce houses or have them for their fall or spring carnival. Food sales, I always like to point out food sales and make sure when you're having these that your food is fully cooked. We had an incident one time where someone very generously cooked the food, chicken specifically, and unfortunately they did not cook the food all the way through and 356 people got food poisoning. So you do want to make sure your food's cooked all the way through. Fun runs, make sure there's people chaperoning and watching the kids running, all that kind of stuff. But these are different activities that we do cover for. Next, we're going to talk about what activities are usually not covered. So things like automobiles, you need an auto policy for that. Watercraft, you need a boating policy for that. Workers' comp, fireworks, mechanical rides, aircrafts, and organized sports. Those all are excluded under the general liability policy. Now, I do always like to point out the organized sports. That doesn't mean that if you guys want to have a fun time fundraiser with the kids kicking around a soccer ball that's not covered. It's really there to just specify that we can't cover the school team. So a lot of times PTAs will think that the policy will cover for the school baseball team or the school basketball team, and it does not. It will cover for if you guys want to have a parent-faculty fundraiser where the kids are playing basketball with the teachers, but it will not cover any of the school team sports. Okay, so that is the end of the general liability policy. To recap a little bit of that, again, it covers lawsuits resulting from bodily injury. These are typical activities that we do cover, so bounce houses, swim parties, and all that. And then these are activities that are typically not covered, that are going to be excluded from the policy. So now we're going to move on to one of the endorsements for general liability policy. This is called our extended medical, and this provides medical payments for injury sustained at a PTA event. So it's a little bit different than general liability, but kind of similar. So the differences are that general liability protects you from a lawsuit, and extended medical does not. So if you are having an event and someone got injured and say they had to go to the go to the hospital and you had to call an ambulance, the parents might not want to sue the PTA, but they do want you to pay for the medical bills or the ambulance bills. So you can use this coverage to pay for the ambulance bills or any other type of medical bills without filing a lawsuit. And then extended medical coverage payments coverage will provide payments for expenses not involved in a lawsuit. So again, like I kind of said, if you're having an event, someone gets hurt, they necessarily don't want to sue the PTA, but they would like some help with the medical payments, you can use this policy to help to pay for the medical bills outside of a lawsuit. So why is this coverage important? It provides the option for a higher limit to larger medical expenses and helps to deter from a lawsuit. And that's probably the biggest one that's the most important. Is that if you already have a way to help provide payment for the medical bills, a lot of people aren't going to sue. So a big reason why people will sue is maybe they don't have health insurance or their health insurance doesn't cover for something that occurred, so they have to sue the PTA in order to get that covered. But if you already have extended medical, then that really helps to deter from a lawsuit. So what policy limits should you consider for this type of coverage? We always say every PTA is different. You should always consider how many activities you have during a year. So some PTAs, they have a fall carnival and a spring carnival, and that's about it for their events. But some PTAs are having a rock climbing wall every month. So you really want to just determine the limit based on your activity for your PTA. And our standard limits that we provide are the 10, 25, and 50. And so that's it for our extended medical payment endorsement. So again, just to kind of review, it covers for medical bills outside of a lawsuit. So general liability is for if you guys are in a lawsuit when someone gets hurt, and extended medical is if you're not involved in a lawsuit and want to pay for medical bills. Okay, so our next endorsement, this is our second endorsement to the general liability policy. So this is called the media liability endorsement. And what does it cover from? Lawsuits resulting from social media. So if you have a Facebook page, Instagram, a PTA website, if you were to post photographs without getting a release form. So say you're having a carnival and you take pictures of all the kids at the carnival and you decide to post that to your Facebook page. A parent could be upset that their photo of their kid is online, and so they decide to sue the PTA. Using a trademark and a logo without permission, you're having a fundraiser at your local barbecue place and you unfortunately either post the wrong logo or didn't have permission to post that logo, they could sue you for that. Misrepresentation of information or making confidential information public. So if you're to post maybe someone's phone number or email, maybe that didn't want that posted online, they could sue you for that. So this is for anything that you're posting on social media. Again, Facebook, Instagram, your own personal PTA website that someone could sue you for. So what types of social media are covered? Again, kind of like I mentioned, Facebook, your own PTA website, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, really anything you can think of that's on a computer that you guys will be posting for your PTA. Okay, and that's the end of our media liability endorsement. Again, that's a second endorsement to the general liability policy. So if you have general liability, you can purchase this extra endorsement to cover for online things like that. And then our third and final endorsement for the general liability policy is our terrorism risk endorsement. What does this cover? It covers losses resulting from a certified terrorist act at one of your PTA events. So a few things to note here. It does have to be a certified terrorist act. What does that mean? That means that the Secretary of State has to come in and say that what happened on that date at your PTA event was a terrorist act. Why do we offer this to you guys? It's required by law. It's not that we see that there's going to be a huge likelihood that it would happen. It is just required by law that we have to offer it to you. So again, it has to be at your PTA event, and it does have to be a certified terrorist act for this coverage to come into play. And that is it for our general liability coverage with the 3 endorsements. So just to go back real quick to show you what we covered the general liability and the 3 endorsements listed under there. Again, general liability covers for injuries in a lawsuit. Extended medical is outside of a lawsuit injuries. Media liability is for if you get sued for something you post online. And the terrorism risk endorsement is if you get sued for there being a terrorist act and someone got injured for that. And so now you're going to see the second coverage. We're going to move on to fidelity bond crime policy. All right, so what does a bond policy protect? A bond policy protects the cash or money of the PTA against embezzlement, robbery, or theft. So if the treasurer has, the money, or the president, or even a volunteer was to steal or embezzle the money, then we can reimburse you guys up to the limit that you choose. Who should be covered by a bond? We put this question in because we understand some people don't have our insurance policy, but you should always make sure you have anyone that's in the PTAs being covered by the policy. So with AIM, we do offer what we call a blanket policy, which means that if anyone was to steal the money, like I said, a president, a treasurer, a volunteer was to steal that money, we can reimburse you up to the amount that was stolen. Other insurance companies will offer what they call position bond coverage, meaning that you have to list the exact position on your policy if it got stolen. So some policies will say if the treasurer was to steal it, then you get coverage. So only if the treasurer stole it will there be coverage, which, it can be stolen by anyone. So we offer it to, if it's stolen by anyone, there's coverage. So you want to make sure and review your policy if you don't have insurance with AIM, that there's coverage for if anyone steals it. So I like to show this triangle here for our fidelity bond coverage. So unfortunately, fidelity bond coverage is our most frequent claim. We do have more people stealing money from the PTA than any other policy. Typically what happens is not out of malicious intent. What happens is mom or dad loses their job. Unfortunately, the bills have to be paid, and so there's not motivation. They need to get it paid, and then there's an opportunity. So typically that mom or dad is the treasurer of the PTA, so they have an opportunity just to borrow some money from the PTA. And the second mom or dad gets a job, they will return that money to the account and everything will be fine. So they rationalize it. But unfortunately what happens is 1 month turns into 2, which turns into 3, and what was initially $300 to pay the phone bill turns into a couple thousand over the next 6 months because they're taking money out of the PTA account to help pay their personal bills. Again, not on malicious intent, but there's a motivation, an opportunity, and a rationalization, and the money typically gets stolen that way. So how do you protect yourself from a loss as a PTA? 2 of these on here are required by AIM for your policy, but 1 here is just a good practice. So you always want to have the checking account require 2 signatures on each check. I know that we're moving towards more of a credit card, debit card time where not everyone's doing checks anymore, but if you are doing checks, we do recommend you have a double signer and that you require 2 checks on each one that you mail or spend. And then have someone who does not have check signing authority reviewing the statements on a monthly basis. Now, if you do have insurance with AIM and you have the fidelity bond policy, you must be doing this in order for your coverage to not be void. So again, just someone who doesn't have check signing authority. So the secretary or maybe the president doesn't have check signing authority, reviewing those bank statements, signing off on them, and you guys do need to retain them because in the event you do have to file a claim, we do need to see proof that you guys were doing that. And the last one is conduct an annual audit of the books by an audit committee or a qualified accountant. Basically meaning you do an annual review of all of your spending. So you can either pay for a qualified accountant or you can create an audit committee. We say usually have 3 or more people and you guys review those books annually. And those two, again, are required if you do have Fidelity Bond insurance with AIM. And we ask this all the time, how much bonding coverage do you need? Again, every PTA has to determine their own level of coverage for all of our insurance coverage, but we say the safest practice is to match your gross annual budget revenues for the bond limit. So if you make $50,000 in a year, get the $50,000 coverage. If you make $5,000 in a year, then our lowest one is 10, so get the $10,000 coverage. And the difference between each coverage is $15 or $20, so it's really worth it to make sure that you have the accurate coverage. And we did do a little poll here asking you guys, has embezzlement or theft ever happened? We did get a response that 29% of you guys did say yes, that you have had an incident where money was stolen from the PTA. So again, showing that it does happen, so it is an important coverage to have. And unfortunately, it is the most frequent claim that we get here in the office. Okay, so we're going to move on to officer's liability. This is another one of our main coverages. It protects the officers from a lawsuit resulting from wrongful acts or inappropriate actions. Basically, any decisions that you guys can make is the simplest way to explain this one. So some situations that could happen: inappropriate use of your organization's funds. Maybe you guys have a fundraiser and you decide to use the funds for a field trip, but a parent thinks that you should use the funds for school supplies. So you decide to use, so the parent gets upset because you used it for the field trip instead of school supplies. They could sue you for that. Wrongful acts, misleading statements, or negligent acts. Discrimination, not following your bylaws, or misrepresentation of the PTA. But how you might not be protected is if the lawsuit is from knowingly wrongful acts, dishonesty, reckless criminal acts. So if you're knowingly doing something criminal, unfortunately there's no coverage for that. But if you are, again, using your funds not in an illegal way or anything, you just want to use it towards the field trip. And again, a parent's unhappy that you're using it for that reason, that's something we can provide coverage for. And then on to one of our last coverages, the inland marine policy. This is a property policy that protects any personal property owned by the PTA for theft or damage due to an accident or theft or natural disaster. So what type of things can a PTA own? Fundraising merchandise, popcorn machine, auction items, tables, chairs, raffle items, microphones. I know a lot of times PTAs don't own a lot, but again, a lot of PTAs will have fundraising merchandise during Christmas time. So you definitely want to make sure that your property is covered in case something was to happen. We've had it before where someone, cookie dough sales or wrapping paper sales during Christmas time, the PTA orders it gets stolen or it gets damaged, and then they're out all that fundraising money. So if you are having, fundraising merchandise, or you guys are having an auction and you're having auction items and those were to get destroyed or stolen, you want to make sure you guys have coverage for that. And to mention, the limits for the inland marine policy are 10, 25, and 50 that you can protect your items. But that is all for the different coverages. I guess we'll move on to questions. And I will have Jamie here, who is going to be reading off some of the questions to give to me so I can answer some of them.
So it looks like really we just got one question regarding school shootings and if that would be considered a terrorist act.
Right, so I definitely get this question a lot when it comes to the school shootings. So if a school shooting was deemed as a terrorist act by the Secretary of State, then it would be considered a terrorist act. So it does have to be, for it to be a terrorist act, it does have to be certified by the government that's a terrorist act. Now, it doesn't just have to be at the school. It has to be at a PTA event for there to be coverage. So let's say the scenario, you having a PTA event, someone not in their right mind comes in and starts shooting at the students. It's not deemed a terrorist act, but you have general liability coverage. There would be coverage under the general liability policy because it covers for bodily injury. Now, if you didn't have terrorist coverage and that incident was deemed a terrorist act, then there would not be coverage. So it's trying to explain it the best I can here, but basically the incident has to be deemed a terrorist act by the government for the terrorism coverage to come into play.
The next question is Spirit Shop clothing covered under the Inland Marine property policy?
Yes, as long as you guys are owning that. So it can't be school property. It needs to be owned by the PTA. So let's say you have the Spirit Wear or Spirit Shop clothing and you're storing it in a closet at the school. You guys are the ones storing it, not the school. You guys put it there. You know it's there. You organize it there. And it was to get someone, broke in and stole it, there would be coverage for the Spirit Wear, as long as you have the Inland Marine property policy.
And a follow-up to that question, what about the trailer that's housing the Spirit Shop goods?
Yes, however, you do need to make sure you lock up that trailer. If it's not locked up and you guys don't close it and stuff like that, there's not coverage. But as long as you guys are locking it up and you guys are the ones that are housing everything in there, then yes, there would be coverage if it got stolen out of the trailer. You just want to make sure that it's not the school that's putting the stuff there and organizing it. It's the PTA that is storing it and knows it's there and is putting it away. So that's it for today. That's all the information that we have. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us by email, which is aim@aim-companies.com, or feel free to go to our website, which is aim-companies.com, where you can learn lots about insurance and all the stuff that we went over today. But also make sure to follow us on our Facebook page. We put lots of information, great articles out there, so you can always be up to date on your insurance.
Insuring your group is surprisingly affordable. Coverage starts at $65 a year, with final cost determined by your state and the type of coverage you choose. As a family-owned business, we believe in outstanding customer care and building great relationships with our clients. And that means being available whenever you need us. Our phones are open 24/7. Call us with any questions.